Okay.
Yep.
And that's not, is that, okay, it's new and
We
unfinished?
have one category where we,
Okay. All right, so we'll discuss the budget. Do we want to discuss last year's budget? Do we have anything there to discuss?
the current budget that we're in.
Yes.
The only thing of note right now that is not reflected, well, let me back up just one moment. So you have handouts on the table because between the time that we posted the proposed draft budget, the county made adjustments. They make adjustments to personnel vacancies. So the personnel number is actually lower than it was in the posted due to the timing of when we posted and when they made that adjustment. So they don't ever budget fully for vacant positions. So that's why everything else is unchanged. It's just the personnel that went down as a result of
Is
making that
that a
adjustment.
strategy not to budget for MPs?
Yeah, I think with turnover and unfilled positions, they just hold back some of those dollars.
Oh, okay. Expecting that.
Correct.
There will be some vacancies.
Yes.
Okay.
So to your question of fiscal year '25, so some of the salaries in fringe, including health insurance for grants, have not yet hit in D365. That is the financial system, so those adjustments will be made and then it will be reflected when we bring the financials forward to you on a monthly basis. And then our SIPA grant. So you'll notice, or you may notice on the detail budget, which let me grab that. We had to pay back the interest that accrues on that grant. And and it's because it crosses over the fiscal year, the interest is based on the state's grant year from July to June, so July 24 to June 25. We had to pay back $6,969.37 in interest. And we get to keep $500 of that interest. So those are that would be the only things of note on the 25 portion of the budget. And if there are no questions there, I can move into the 26. Okay. So we'll start kind of in the order in which things are in the packet. So the first thing is our org chart. Because we are a large department, it is a challenge to get all of our FTEs on one page. We've updated it since last year. One change since last year. So the epidemiology program used to report up under nursing, and because it has an overarching purpose and function, we moved it over under admin. So that is a change. Then something else that actually Mary Ellen and I discussed today was we put our medical director on our org chart, but we also, just as a reminder, contract for a veterinarian. And that individual is in the statute as the deputy. When the administrator for animal control is not a veterinarian, then your deputy animal control administrator must be a veterinarian. So we were just suggesting, and we could make this update for Monday, is to add that deputy onto the org chart. Everybody's good with that? Mm-hmm. We will do that? Okay. Then I'm not going to read through the highlights and goals. If people have questions or the performance indicators, we have all the staff here, we have all the directors here to answer questions. But a lot has been accomplished, and the indicators really tell, I think, a powerful story of all the work that is being done in the health department. Are there any questions there? If not, then we move on to the FTE sheet. So we technically increased by 0.25 between last year, or between our current year and, no, between last year and where we are right now. And actually that 0.25 increase is actually covered by a grant. So it's not on the general fund, that increase. So any questions about FTEs? Okay. I'm going to cruise through this and then we can get into people's questions. The projected payouts is a form that we have to fill out every year. So it's accumulated excess sick leave, and it's just a required form that the county has. So we calculate that and provide that, and then those staff get paid out at the end of the year for the excess because they've maxed out on their sick time. Okay, so then the next form you have is just a high-level rolled-up budget. Looks like this. And our revenue for the year is projected, so in 2026, our proposed revenue is down by 7.37%. The bulk of that is in our governmental grants. You know, we've had some grants that have been discontinued. We have reductions in our grant awards. So, but that does not mean this is where we're going to land at the end of the year, because we will continue to be applying for grants throughout the year. This revenue does not include any adjustments or increases to fines and fees. We have been discussing as a department, discussing updates to our fee ordinance, which hasn't been updated since 2022. So, and I know the county, we've been having conversations with them as well. They're evaluating and projecting the impact of raising fees. And they're looking at about 2%. So that alone would increase our revenue. But we're starting with the basics of what we feel confident knowing. The grant allocations, we do it the same way every year because the state, most of our grants are from the state. We budget 7 months of known grant revenue and project 5 months of revenue because we don't know what it's going to be. Then another thing that we did that is a change from last year, so we have something called a local health protection grant, which is a portion of a larger grant called the Comprehensive Health Protection Grant through the state of Illinois. And we have previously budgeted those revenues, which were undesignated to some degree. We moved them out of our individual budgets and moved them into 5111, which is our grants budget, so that we will see all the transactions in and out. Does that make sense? Okay. And then, you know, as we apply for grants, we're always trying to look at ways to lower the burden on the general fund, you know, by offsetting salaries and costs. So that is not going to change. That's going to continue. Any questions about revenue? Okay. Then we'll move on to expense. So if you look at the total expense, it's up by 1.34%, which I think is not, I think that's pretty good. Our salaries, if you look at just the personnel line, which is the 30s, all the 30s rolled up, it is up by 5.34%. Something to note about how the personnel costs work is the fiscal year 25 budget that we're in right now does not include the merit that was paid in December of 2024. Because when the county approves the budget, it gets paid, it goes into the next budget year. So automatically, the cost of personnel are going to reflect, and last year it was 4%. So there's a 4% increase in there already. So just something to understand about why some of those costs. But it does not include the 26 merit. Is that, okay,
And typically speaking, personnel does not also include your FICA and IMRF that would be required by each of those individual employees, correct? Because those are separate.
correct. And this has, okay, and the FICA and IMRF are not in here. The county has also moved those costs out. The other thing that's not reflected in here are our FTEs that are covered on ARPA. Those are in a completely different fund.
FTEs covered
Oh.
on what?
The American Rescue Plan funds, we have 5 positions that are budgeted that way. And I tried to call that out in the FTE sheet with little color, just so that you could see. So the FTEs do include those 5 positions, but their payment source is in the ARPA fund. Any questions so far? Okay. Another likely contributor to our personnel costs going up is that in prior years, we had more vacancies at the time we were doing the budget. So we have fewer unfilled positions, and that's good for us, right? Because we want those positions filled, and in part, what the county has done, the efforts the county has made to increase salaries and grade changes through their compensation efforts have made some of those hard to fill positions easier for us to fill. And of all the salaries, so getting back to sort of the grants and offsets, we have 36 positions that are funded by grants. 15 of those positions are 100% funded through grants at over $1 million, and we have 21 general funded positions that we offset at roughly $648,000, and those ARPA positions are a little over $450,000. Then we have,
Can I ask a question?
yes ma'am.
Of those 36 positions, how much does that fluctuate year to year? Is that
It
on
just-
average?
You know, I did not look at averages, but I can go back and look at
I
those.
think that would be.
Year over year, how that goes up and down.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think that might be interesting.
Okay, I would be happy to do that. 4 positions are funded, so it's still the general fund, but it's Department 52, our TB program. This year, 2 of those positions are being offset by $67,776. So we actually, due to some grants, we moved some of those costs also off the general fund. And then we have 2 positions that are funded by a county match for our Illinois Breast and Cervical Cancer program, and that's about $102,000. Okay, so moving down, any questions about personnel? Okay, we'll move on. The county often, when they say they want us to present a flat budget, for example, a maintenance budget, that has been essentially since I've been here, what has been presented. They're really looking at our contractual and commodities costs and keeping those as flat as possible. So actually this year, we have reduced our 4s and 5s, so our contractual costs and our commodities by 13%, about $237,708. Now, a big portion of that is the grants, but that is not exclusively grant funds that we've reduced. So about $192,000 of that is grants, about $33,000 is from environmental health. Again, those were expenses that we moved over with the grants. When I said we moved the revenue over into our grants, 5111, there's some of that. And then we've reduced some of the costs in our IBCCP as well. So all in all, I think that's pretty positive. Any questions about, something that we will need to talk about. So in contractual, right now, we do have respiratory vaccines budgeted. But we will likely need to evaluate that based on new recommendations. So I just want to put that out there.
Can I add, just to put it in perspective? so they have a perspective of where the county's coming from with regard to.
Please
reevaluating.
feel free to,
Just, okay, so let me put this kind of sort of in an overall perspective so you understand budget discussions and kind of where we fall into this. Currently, if the county levied what it possibly could levy to the max, which is new growth and 2.9% CPI, we are still $1 million short of filling every single expense that we are currently incurring in 2025. So there's $1 million gap if we take everything. When the county board took an anonymous vote as to where individual board members were with how they wanted to move forward, we had 6 members who literally stated that they wanted to reduce the levy by 3%, which would be a $7 million deficit right off the bat. 6 members were somewhere between taking the new growth and no CPI, and then there was a whole slew that said they would take the new growth and all of the CPI or part of the CPI. So what's currently going on now is staff is educating the board about the ramifications of any of those scenarios. So I want you to understand that that's one of the reasons too that everybody, all the department heads were asked to submit a maintenance budget so that we could figure out really kind of where those expenses are. They were also asked to identify anything that was required by statute that we have to do, or any outstanding contracts, any outstanding grants that again, we must complete. So they were asking for that. And then as well, any areas that potentially could be eliminated or reduced. So that was the instruction that every single department had received from staff about going forward with the budget. So that's kind of just giving you the general flavor of conversations that are going on over here, which is why I'm sitting here tonight. Okay.
so that kind of brings us to like just the big picture of where our budget is. I don't know if anybody has any questions or if staff have any comments, because the next section is the supplemental section. Anyone? Anyone? No. Okay. Moving on to supplemental. So we just got information back this week from the county, so that's why this was not in your packet. So if you want to pull out the big sheet, it will be in the packet for Monday for the board. So we have a number of things, although there was like, you had 3 capital outlay requests in the packet, all from animal control, for a freezer, a dryer, and to replace the floors. Do you want to maybe give a brief overview of why those things are necessary?
The floor is in rough shape. It's been there since 2007, and that's the floor that goes around our main animal area. So it's kind of a, it has some, I don't know what it's called, so it's all bumpy. It has some sand or something in there, and now that's all wasted away. There's divots, there's holes, there's cracks, there's nicks, and you know, every time you have to bring an animal through that building, you have the likelihood of spreading something. So we've had some different zoonotic disease in our building. It's very difficult to keep those floors clean. They do not go, the epoxy does not go up the side, it ends, and there's a piece of wood at the bottom of it. And it's just very difficult to know that we're keeping that clean. You have a lot of staff going through, we have a lot of animals going through, and it was never in the capital plan to redo that flooring. Now, last year, when we got the ARPA funds, we could not put the flooring in because it just did not meet the requirements of the ARPA funding. And facilities had indicated that they would try to get that done in the next budget year, but we're not able to do that. So we are coming up with some creative ideas of how we might be able to get that done. Because it really is very necessary with all the surgeries, with healthy animals being adopted, not intermingling with any of those things in the hallways. Any questions about that?
How much do you think that's gonna cost?
They estimated it during the ARPA funding to be about 30,000.
So since Monday,
Yeah.
we've had some additional conversation with the county, and I think the treasurer's report came out. So there is the animal shelter fund, which is actually in the packet with, should be in the packet. Yes,
We
it's
have
like,
been able to be very conservative with the animal shelter fund. It's really for the good of all the animals that come in the building. So yes, we have typically used it for any medical services over and above your average animal. Maybe when somebody needs an amputation or severe dental, something like that. But it's a good little fund right now, and it would help support some of these things that would be for the good of the whole.
it has grown, and keep in mind, we have not budgeted, so the funds earn interest, and then we have people who make donations throughout the year. There's actually, you are not seeing the complete fund here, you are only seeing what we budget every year, which has been pretty flat, 12,000 every year. There is actually $53,000 in that fund, so we are now suggesting we pull the capital outlay out for the floor, and we use the funds, part of that fund balance, possibly for the dryer as well. And then while on the supplemental, I'm keeping the freezer on here, we, in discussions with the county, we can look at our budget this year to see if we're gonna have excess and get that freezer out of this year's budget. So we are not putting that in, ultimately in the supplemental. I wanna keep it on there now so that it buys us a little time to look at our options. Because again, kind of what Pam said is we have to be sensitive to all the requests that we have and, try to reduce that burden as much as possible. Right now, that supplemental request is sitting at almost $87,000.
It would certainly be easier to gain access to that fund for those purposes now during budget time than holding and waiting and having to
Correct.
come back
Yep.
and ask, yeah. Because as much as it's your money and you guys get to do with it, you still have to come to the county board and get permission to spend it. So it certainly would be smarter just to take care of it up front and have it.
Yeah, and we talked to finance about it. So if we can do that and people are supportive, then that is the direction we would recommend going.
And it wouldn't change our ability to use some of those funds for what we typically used them for.
But it wouldn't what?
It wouldn't change our ability to continue to use those funds for those few medical necessities we need during the year.
It would still leave a balance in the fund. We wouldn't deplete it completely. So then the other items are Wi-Fi in the best way, sorry, we didn't have paper big enough and we wanted you to be able to read it. So if you put them side by side, and do you want to talk about maybe the request for the Wi-Fi in the Crystal Lake building?
Sure, so with the expansion in the new garage, there's a lab and storage. Also, the front of the building was bumped out, so we have a bigger lobby area, waiting area, especially on the nursing side. IT came to us and said, we don't think we'll have enough connectivity, and we'll need to put at least 4 to 5 additional Wi-Fi saucers up there, if you will, and we'll need, them to be connected in addition. So they all have to be connected throughout the building and into the IT closet. But without that, we wouldn't get reliable Wi-Fi in those areas, and especially the garage. If we're holding a drive-through clinic, which was the whole point, we wouldn't be able to have Wi-Fi in there. So if people are on their tablets or we're trying to get people in and out, we could have disruption all throughout any kind of event. So that's why we're asking for the $25,000.
Then the next item on the supplemental is the request for the Board of Health compensation. Based on the discussions the board has had and the statute and the bylaws, the recommendation was $100 per month for 11 members. Does not include the liaison, the county liaison.
Better not. That would be a problem, but yeah.
Then we, so Patty and I have had a lot of conversation. I don't know, Patty, would you like to give an overview of the proposed plan down in environmental?
Sure. So, you know, over the past year since Mr. Lovato passed away, it's been really, I would tell you honestly, a struggle to fill that gap. And we did have a very, very competent internal person take the position, you know, approximately 6 months ago, and it was overwhelming for that person. And so and I have actually been the one filling that gap for an extended period of time. That is not sustainable, you know, into the future. And so after speaking with my staff internally, we feel that splitting that position into two would take it from an overwhelming position to a manageable position. And so we are proposing to reclassify the current supervisor position down, which will free up funding, reclassify 2 positions up to those 2 split supervisory positions, and then the net difference will be approximately $5,100, which I believe that we can cover through reallocation of local health protection grant dollars or fee adjustments, so there would be no additional burden to the general fund.
Which technically, the way this form works is not reflected here. If it is offset by a grant, it would lower this number, but it's not reflected in this bottom line. And then, a vehicle.
Pardon?
I said, and then,
Yeah.
a vehicle.
Yes. Which remains an ongoing problem, so we've been working with the county. New vehicles have been ordered for this year, but currently, honestly, Lindsay and Mary Ellen and Megan have all given me one of their cars from their division, just so we have enough to get the field staff out to the field on a daily basis. That does not give us any vehicles when one is in the shop. It does not give us any vehicles when a field staff supervisor needs to go out in the field with someone else or take care of something. It just gets us barely by on a day-to-day basis, and that's with me borrowing big vehicles from other divisions. So.
And that wraps up our supplemental request.
And I would just note, in talking, that's a definitive reflection on the economic development positivity in McHenry County, is that you need that many additional people and vehicles to answer those growing successes.
Okay.
I had to reach, so.
Any questions for me, for staff?
So when you have things like freezer, Wi-Fi, vehicle, these things that you are needing to do improvements for, just trying to understand. So when you're saying, is that an estimated cost? Are they out for bids, or does the county, is the Department of Health supposed to get 3 different sources to do that, or?
Well,
Two of
first it'd
those.
have to be approved.
Right.
It first has to be approved,
Before you go shopping?
essentially.
I
We did
mean,
get
so.
over there.
I mean, we
once
have a quote for the floor, that's why we have, because previously we were looking into that.
Okay, so, but do you go with that one quote, or do you get multiple quotes to see what the?
It depends on, do you want to answer? And it depends on the cost and,
We go by the purchasing
Yeah,
ordinance. If
we
it's
follow the
over
purchasing ordinance.
$30,000, or, you know, if it's over 5,000, certain things have to happen. If it's over 30,000, it has to go out for RFP.
Okay, but if it's under 30,000, does not have to go out for?
It can go out for quotes.
quotes,
Quotes.
yes.
But we did with all 3 of these, I believe, the flooring, the Wi-Fi, and the freezer. The freezer. We did get quotes.
Okay.
Part of that was part of the ARPA project. However, due to certain things that happened in City of Crystal Lake, it came out over budget. So certain things had to be taken out as well. And we did have bids on that, but we would go out to rebid, but not kind of have a good estimate of cost.
On those 3
On
things,
those.
you have multiple
Mhm.
quotes? Okay, that's all I need to know, thanks.
Okay, I'm new here, here to learn, I'm a feelings doctor. I'm trying my best, and I really want to understand all of this. So staff shares what they need for the next year. Then staff talks to us and we ask questions and we approve. And then this goes to the Board of Health big meeting and then the members of the Board of Health approve. And then this goes to the county board and then the county board approves these asks. Oh, thank you. You hope, okay.
Technically,
So-
today you're not approving, you would be recommending.
Got
But
it.
it's
Thank
you
you.
know, just a small.
But that's good. Thank you for clarifying that. And then we have the funds, we do not have the funds to do these things.
Correct.
So these funds to do these things come from magic? The
So when you say
counties?
we don't have the funds, they are not currently in our budget. So everything on these sheets,
Supplemental sheets.
not in our budget, not
Not in-
reflected in.
It wasn't maintenance. Remember, she was supposed to do maintenance.
Yes.
Not maintenance.
Yes.
So every year, the county will look at all the supplemental requests. They typically prioritize them on need, I hope. And so, and usually there's a discussion so that they understand the consequences of not getting something.
But these funds then come from
The county.
I got it.
Yep,
Actually,
or,
talk about, because some of the money comes from fees for services, obviously, right? That are funds in different, that are revenue put into different funds. And part of it comes from property tax, but only part of it. So what's the percentage that public health gets from property taxes?
oh,
Like what,
No,
30 to 40% maybe?
this year it's a little higher. One moment, please.
Good question.
I'm trying so hard because this is so important and it's all new and why I'm on the finance committee. I don't know,
And
but
and if the members of the Board of Health can't answer the questions, you know.
Right, like I'm here to learn.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. But not all the revenue that the Department of Public Health receives is from property tax.
Sure.
I want to make that clear. You know, you have other revenue streams.
So if you look at it like animal control, just from,
Registrations,
registrations,
right.
it's almost $1 million now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So though it comes back to us from the general fund, we
Mhm.
contribute to the general fund.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Thank you. Important for the narrative. But this is really the only place that the county board really has, outside of, again, hiring people, but it's really the only place that the county board has the ability to kind of oversee what the Board of Health determines is via the approval of how you spend money, what money you get and how you spend it.
So what other county entities, if you will, are in the same position where they then make asks and then go to the county board? Is it just the Department of Health or is it
Oh,
also?
no.
No.
It's all of them.
All of them, every department, every division does the same thing that the Department of Public Health does here in Montgomery
And
County.
examples of those are?
Transportation,
Sure.
planning and zoning, the sheriff, even the
Coroner.
constitutional officers still come to the county board to get approval
Got
on what their budget's gonna look like. So
Got
the
it.
money that they get to spend and when they spend it.
Got it.
I'm on the conservation board too.
Yeah,
That
Go through the
too.
exact same process as what we're doing right now.
yeah.
You don't have the subcommittees as much, but the funds go into the one thing, we have to prove, it goes to the county, it kind of is all these, there's a bunch of these separate meetings going on for the different
Yeah.
departments, and we're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so to answer Pam's question, so this year it's about 40% is the difference. The current year we're in, based on the budget, was 34.4%. FY '24 was 42%. And it was 22% in FY '23, and that's as far back as I went. I can go back further. I think then we had so many grants that were offsetting our
Yeah,
costs.
sure.
It's not that our costs have gone up, because remember, most of our positions are general funded positions that we offset. And obviously, our biggest cost is our people.
And I will, give you the things that you'll learn in any of them. You need to remember that less than 50% of the revenue comes from property tax. And the Department of Public Health here in McHenry County has done a stellar job in applying and receiving grant dollars to offset many of the expenses that normally would go through the general operating expenses, fund. So know that's, when you talk to anybody, that's extraordinarily important.
I guess the only thing then that I'm potentially anticipating concern for is what happens if there are less of those grant opportunities and less ability to seek funding in, I don't want to say creative ways, but really strategic ways to cover.
Yeah.
So now you know why I asked you the
So,
question.
I'm not picking on anything, I'm just using it as an example. So much of what we do is mandated, but we do operate programs like WIC, like IBCCP, that play a huge function in the community, right? They are huge assets, and for the most part, like WIC covers its costs. IBCCP is pretty close. But for example, if there was no WIC grant, if they were to cut WIC, there is no WIC program for us to implement, right? So that's not something that we can sustain if the program's not even there to deliver.
I see. Yeah.
But when you backing away from some of those things, and you look at the mandated services, well, they're still required by law that we do them. Could we retool and rethink? We'd have to put a plan in place of what that would look like if some of our funding went away from the state. So like if the state, since so much is passed through, if some of that funding changes, we just have to continuously evaluate what that landscape looks like. But it doesn't necessarily mean our work goes away. So it either potentially has the effect of increasing the cost on the general fund, which again, we tried to lower, and some years it's like amazing how much lower our cost to the general fund balance is. But it fluctuates year over year.
Great question.
Did Pam call you before? No.
I did not.
No, I wouldn't even know how to find Pam if I wanted to, so.
I'm not that hard, but.
Yeah.
That'll
good
be
question.
the first question.
Yeah.
I told Melissa that'll be the first question every board member will ask is what happens if the grant goes away? Do we have to keep those people? Do we have to continually fund that program? Would be the first question.
It would be really sad not to have WIC.
Yeah, but fortunately, actually, WIC went up, and right. So I think it's premature. Things are still rapidly changing, and where the dust settles, I think,
Yeah.
is not
Yeah,
clear yet.
yeah. No, I understand. Thank you.
Are you complete?
I'm complete. Thanks, Marcy.
Sorry. Every once in a while I have to do that.
I dig it.
Other comments, questions?
Is it true, I'm just thinking out loud here, that our animal control fund is for us to utilize? Or we have to jump through some other hoops in order to get access?
My
to the
understanding is
funds?
we should not have to jump through hoops because that, by law, the animal shelter fund is to be used for the purposes, yes. It is legally in the statute. Now, the county, we will still have to work with the county, right? So those conversations is what we will be having to ensure that, we identify that funding or have the commitment to use those funds for these purposes.
Okay, because we would have a lot of what we are requesting within what's in that fund, right?
Yes, and part of why it's available to us now, like why it has grown, because we haven't had to tap it. So the interest with the revenue, the small revenues we get year over year, it's now grown into something, right? Large enough that we can use for the purposes that we need.
Such as the flooring.
Correct.
And we have used it for other things besides medical care in the past.
Pardon?
We have used it for other things besides medical care in the past. When we bought our steam cleaner, we used the $5,000 from that fund. Because, again, it helps the whole, right? Keeping things clean and sanitized helps the whole.
Yeah, I don't want you to think, it's not like we can access that money on our own. We have to work with the county. We don't, it sits in a special fund in, I
That
guess,
they
the bank.
control.
Yes, correct. They manage
Oh,
those funds.
but they still can tell us if we can use it or not. Because it would seem that if we had access to those funds, if those were indeed ours, that the flooring could get done, that the things that we are asking for could almost all be done.
It could. And so that's the conversation. And that's why on here, we only left the freezer for now. But we feel like we can take the flooring off and the dryer off, work with the county around the animal shelter fund to use those dollars to cover those expenses. And then we'll see where we're at and see if our budget this year, if there's any funds available, if we think about our department rolled up as a whole, if there are unexpended contractual monies, we can utilize that, working with the county to pay for the freezer as well. So I think what we're saying is we're going to try to cover all these requests in this current fiscal year so that we're not pushing it forward to another fiscal year or adding to our supplemental. Does that make sense? So I think if there's no further questions, then you all have to decide if you want to make a recommendation to the full board.
I wrote down something about the respiratory vaccine pot, and you said that was something that we would have to reevaluate. Is that at the big board meeting, or?
So the reason I say, we have it budgeted, but let's say, so we get flu vaccine, COVID vaccine, for example. COVID is an expensive vaccine, but we currently require our staff to get vaccinated. However, we don't, correct me if I'm wrong, Lindsay, I don't think we have any vaccine on hand. It's expensive, and I think the expiration turnover is pretty quick. So we have to have, if we're not going to use it, we have to dispose of it, and that would be a waste. So it gets back to the bigger conversation of, does the board want to continue that policy to require COVID vaccination for staff, because we require flu and we require COVID. And since those requirements were put in place, we have been paying for them.
And that is a big board meeting conversation.
You could make a recommendation, I think, but yes, it ties into policy, right? So part of it is the budget, and part of it then is the policy that goes alongside of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so is that the only thing up for consideration as a change right now based on?
We don't
the
even have to make that
recommendations?
change right now, right? We could, because we could wait and see. I think there's still dust settling around what the recommendations are even going to be.
the federal policy
Mhm.
changed after our last discussion regarding that, when we had the discussion in the Board of Health meeting regarding getting that vaccine and whether or not we were continuing previous policy, then there has since been federal changes, so
Sure.
I think while we're waiting to see what happens, we'll have to revisit that. I'm just not sure what the time frame will look like. I think that there's always this consistent
But that's,
fluid situation in that it might change more, and I'm not sure it will be available for us to give, so.
Right, so that's the other thing.
So-
So we don't, it's like a unknown right now.
It would save money.
but that cost has already been worked into the budget.
That is currently, it's still in the budget.
Okay, just out of curiosity, how much is that?
Ooh, do you know?
The COVID vaccine would be around 15,000.
Okay, so. Okay.
Say more.
This might be unpopular. I'm one person on the Board of Health, but if it was like a this or that, I would rather forego, and I appreciate we're asking the county for the
We're not
compensation.
foregoing it, and then we're not voting against it. It's more like I might not be able to even give the vaccine, whether or not I wanted to give it or
Okay.
not. So in case you're
Okay.
like leaning towards that, we're not
But
thinking.
No, I
know
was
what
gonna
you
say.
were about to
I
say, but-
understand you were getting at, just like.
I think I know what
Like,
you're about to say, but.
I would rather like be like, hello, let's scrap the, but asking, I'd rather, my thought process, and I get that these now are not related, but I would rather scrap my $100 a month so that individuals here could have,
I appreciate that, that's
She
very.
is really mean. She is truly mean.
like, I'm here as,
She's harnessing your.
I'm here as
She
a
is.
volunteer, I would rather staff feel safe if they wanted to get it, but they're unrelated. Are we similar? This is fun for me. We should chat more. I should chat more, but yeah.
But you can make a recommendation to concur with the budget that is presented and send it to the full Board of Health and put a little caveat on it that, it's still an important issue to be considered at times stated to ensure that availability of that program is made available. I used available twice, but.
It's a good word.
But you can do that if you want.
Would those even be related? Like, is it a if,
Well.
like,
It's a budget item.
yeah.
You can do it just to put the old person here, you could do it to put a little thumbtack, a little pin in the board that reminds everybody that it's an issue that we felt strongly should be considered.
I mean, it could be an if,
For,
then.
yeah, it's up to you.
So I cannot attend the board meeting on Monday. So how do I share that?
It would be a report. If that is your motion and someone seconds it, you will take a vote. Melissa would have to then make that presentation and say a conversation was had. It was important enough that you wanted to put a pin in it to make sure that the issue was discussed once we knew what the status was of getting the vaccine or not.
Okay.
Which we could bring to the board as soon as we know, I think this current status is that.
I don't think anybody's gonna forget about it.
Yeah, we're not.
But if you wanted to note it in the minutes, if that was important enough to you,
I
then
don't
that's how
know.
you would do it.
I don't know what is or is not important enough to put in minutes. I just was wondering.
That's not true, you're on this
Okay.
committee and anything you think is important. And then everybody will agree with you or disagree.
I think it's important that our staff feels safe and has access to vaccines that we are allowed to give them. And I would be happy to forego my paid position here if it would compensate for them to be able to receive a vaccine.
You want to make a motion to that?
I don't know, is that a motion or a comment?
I think it's more of a comment.
Okay, I would like that comment to be noted
On Monday.
on Monday.
Okay.
It's a suggestion, be careful carry it forward to the full board. That's what it is.
It's my daughter's birthday and the first day of school. Oh, it's just like,
You're doing great.
thank you. Am I reassurance seeking? Thank you for giving me that reassurance.
It's a stressful time.
But you still need a motion to move the budget.
Budget, yes.
Presented forward to the full. Board of
I
Health.
will make a motion as presented to the budget to move it forward to the full Board of Health.
I'll second it.
And do you want to include the $100?
No,
No,
no, just a comment.
okay, because we could potentially,
I think, if I understood,
okay.
we're just gonna make sure that comment is reflected Monday as part of the discussion,
Great,
correct?
correct.
Are you gonna be there Monday?
No.
Oh,
In spirit.
In spirit.
I could maybe log on virtually. Okay, sorry, I cannot. It's my daughter's
It's your
birthday
daughter.
and she is important and it's the first day of school and that is also important. This is important, but
Make sure she comes home on the bus.
I'm so sorry. I track them, so I guess like.
So I think we need a vote still. We need a vote.
okay, yeah, we probably need.
A voice, a vote.
A voice.
vote. Ah, tongue twister.
Dr. Katz?
Yes.
Ms. Hollyfield?
Yes.
Dr. Hamsler?
Yes.
Dr. Zurich?
Yes.
And that is for the comment to be noted at the meeting.
No, that's the recommendation.
No, that's the whole
Recommendation.
recommendation. Correct.
Okay.
So we don't have a need for executive session.
Okay.
Should we motion to adjourn? Is that what's?
Yes, adjournment is the last item, so we just need a motion to adjourn unless there's any other.
Okay, anyone?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, second,
I'll second.
okay. And can we just do a voice vote then? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.